Howdy, y'all. I'm Natalie Baugh, and you're listening to It's All Light. Today's Chat with Nat episode, we are going to be talking about relationships, toxic traits, and dating. It's been a minute since I've had a dating episode, and there will be more to come because it's just super interesting to try and figure out dating, especially in Utah County and in general, too. I think it'd be cool to pull in some perspectives of people who live outside of Utah and their dating experiences and what's important to them. But I wanted to talk about just things I've been learning in relationships, as well as I had toxic traits in my notes from a while ago. And it's just an interesting term that I think is thrown out more jokingly than anything. But I want to talk about it kind of in ourselves and like recognizing our toxic traits. There's a book, Calling in the One, and then in parentheses it says 7 weeks to attract the love of your life. But it's been actually the most insightful book, and it kind of has you reflect on yourself and your patterns and things that are important to you and priorities and things like that. So we're going to do a whole episode dedicated to that book once I finish it. But today, just dating in general, I try to ask my single friends their experiences right now, just being in a relationship. It's interesting being in that segment of relationships versus trying to find a relationship, right? And both are hard in their own ways. And I mean, even being in a marriage, like it takes so much work, and it takes work to find people to date, it takes work to be in a relationship, all of the above. But I feel like the biggest thing I've been picking up on is guys are still saying, I'm just taking a break, or nothing's working out for me. Other friends are just kind of, people get over dating quick, and I don't blame them because so many like dead ends, it's so disheartening. And I've been there, and I have family members, and I've just like relatives and experiences I hear. I'm somewhat of a big eavesdropper, and just like things I hear around me about what people are going through. And my heart goes out to all of you if you're hurting or wherever you are in your journey. And I hope to instill some hope and some principles that will help you in dating, as well as I have a list of names of people in my phone, eligible people if you want to be set up with someone. I like to matchmake and get to know what's important to you. And I also recently was going through that list of 10 things I'm looking for, even though I'm like in a relationship, but it's still just in evaluating how I can be better in a relationship type of thing. But Moose Bingham in one of my previous episodes talked about, if you don't know what you're looking for, how are you going to find it? So what are the 10 things you're looking for? And I think the coolest thing for me is as I've reflected on that again, it's been how they've changed into what matters most. Because I'm in the thick of it, it's like, oh, okay, that matters less than I thought it did. And then like if I was dating around and like with my friends, they start to pick and find things that resonate with them and are more meaningful to them. And like friends who have gotten married recently, it's been cool to see their journey. And in my head, I call it the tipping point. Like what tips people to like pull the trigger and get married, or what, like to start dating, and be in a relationship, and what drives people to be committed. We had an episode on commitment issues too, and that's super helpful. But yeah, with that list of 10 things, it's really cool to start putting them into practice. And then Tammy Hill, if you don't follow her on Instagram, she's wonderful. She was my marriage and family prep teacher at BYU and just a marriage therapist. And she posts a lot of helpful tips and spoke to our ward. And she was like, just start with like maybe 7 people that you might be interested in, maybe 7 guys you've swiped up on Mutual or Hinge, and then go from there and just start one at a time and either knock them off or put them up in a list and keep track and what stands out to you and why. And that can help you paint out a picture of what maybe the future could look like. And in the episode with Emmy that you'll hear next week, I don't want to give away too much, but she was just mentioning like, don't fall in so quickly to potential, because that can take away from like really truly getting to know someone. And I thought that was so profound, because I think sometimes like someone does this, or they have a tracker, they know how to do this cool skill, and so you get like enveloped in this cool thing that then later on you either hit certain realities or that aren't this potential picture you dreamed of, or it just flops the other way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's been really cool to just reflect on what matters most to me and like, what do you want your life to look like and how to pair that with someone else. I think that is where a lot of us are stuck. I had a big conversation with some friends on our way to the Dierks Bentley concert, and we were just chatting about relationships. And it's still this like, what is happening? Why aren't people getting married? Why aren't people dating? You know, like I question this all the time, especially with my coworker who's married and has kids, and just like, what is the matter? You know, like these awesome guys want these dreams and certain girls, and it's like, okay, and who are they taking on dates and why, and like, how do you know what people's types are, type of thing, because it seems so just not messy. It just seems like confusing. I don't know why certain people aren't going out with certain people. And in the car ride with my friends, we were chatting about like maybe people are being too picky. I also think we're in this stage of life, like if you're in your mid to late 20s, even early 30s, like you've gone through life, you've hit checkpoints, careers, etc., and you kind of jumped over the marriage part, right? And our bishop has mentioned this too. And you need to like go back and fill that gap in, even though you've hit all these other steps that in like some, maybe a like, sorry, just hit the mic, like a chronological order seems out of place, right? And so you've skipped over it, but now you need to make sure to go back to it. But I think it's somewhat harder to do once you've built just how you live your life and how you spend your money. And it's all about you, which is probably the hardest thing to learn how to get over. And that is something I've been trying to figure out, and sacrificing yourself for someone else and for the sake of someone else, and really putting all your focus and time into someone. And I think, not that we're not capable of doing that, but I think getting to a place where there's someone you want to do that for, I think is scary, because it's like, I guess in a sense you do have a lot to lose because you're putting in so much more to it. You're putting in that vulnerability part of yourself, as well as, you know, sacrificing things in your life that, yeah, are amazing and are great. And I don't know, it's been so interesting because I'm trying to shift. I feel like almost 180 for myself, because so many things I've done are like, okay, I'm going to do this goal and I'm going to do this and this and this. And now it's like, no, okay, if my goal is to get married and have a family and that's my goal, what are the things I'm doing to get there? And that involves sacrificing these other things that I have deemed important. And they can still be important, but it's a matter of the hierarchy and what am I putting in my jar first? And it's been so interesting to figure that out in a relationship and navigate it. And it really does take time, and it takes just remembering the hard things you've accomplished in your life up until then, remembering good relationships you've had, and kind of picking out those elements and why it was that way, and then just doing your best to replicate it. And if you're single and you feel like there's no one to date, or you're hopeless and you can't quite find the person you thought you wanted to find, I feel like my advice would be, I mean, everyone always says this, I mean, continue to better yourself, yes, but look at it in a different way. Like Annabelle Sorensen in her episode a little while back talked about just like putting yourself in a place you want to be. Like just start envisioning and using language that you would be like, okay, if I was in a relationship, what would I be doing tonight? Like, would I be making dinner for them, and then make dinner, and then maybe with the extra food, go take it to a neighbor or a friend, you know, like start doing those little things, like habit changes that could benefit a future relationship. And then read Calling in the One, because that's been super helpful. I mean, even if you're in a relationship, just to kind of sort out yourself and then have a clearer standpoint to help others. And then I'm trying to just think. I didn't take good notes of what I wanted to express, but yeah, relationships are hard and they definitely take work. And I was talking about being hopeless. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I had an incoming call. But yeah, if you're feeling like it's like not going in any direction you want to. So yeah, the cliche, focus on yourself, but with the new lens, put that new lens on of, okay, like if I was dating someone, what would that look like, you know? And then second, I would say tear down that fantasy wall of like who you think you should be with. Or, I mean, yes, definitely keep your like dreams and aspirations of like what you want it to be like in a relationship, you know, like a guy at work was just like went on this cool trip to a farm, Prickly Rock, I think. Anyways, this cool farm homesteader, and he was like, oh my gosh, I would love like a wife like that, like just someone who's like a homemaker, makes sourdough, like goes out and does hard farm work, you know. And I'm like, okay, cool. And like, okay, how is he, like, how can he find that, like how on his journey to find this type of person, you know, what does that look like? And it's cool to see that he knows what he wants. And I think a lot of us kind of have this picture and idea of what we want, and sometimes it comes in different ways, and then just shifting our perspective into how it could look differently. You know, I don't know. It's something fun that you could journal about. Maybe jot down like those 10 things, and then start daydreaming maybe a little bit about like, okay, what would this look like this way? Or maybe I could try this. Or if there's like some people you're kind of interested in but not sure about, like, what do you got to lose in going for it? Anyways, sorry, a little bit all over the place there. The biggest thing with toxic traits, it definitely is like kind of a joke, like, oh, that's my biggest toxic trait, you know? And I like that a lot of people point that out in themselves, but I know there's people in relationships or past relationships where like, oh yeah, that was a toxic trait, that was not good. And even my producer George, I was asking him his thoughts on this, and he was like, yeah, the biggest like toxic trait is just like narcissism and being selfish. And that kind of just reiterates my point of trying to do things now that like better yourself, but are looking outward, because I think that will just prepare you 10 times more to have a healthy relationship, because it really does just take focusing on someone else. And I say that, and I'm so far from perfect in that. It is really hard to do, especially I think if you're like me and you have your own agenda and you have all these things you want to do. I lose sight of what's really important, because I prioritize fun and different things. So it's been interesting to point that out in myself and work on it, because it takes so much work. But here are some other toxic traits, either to be aware of in yourself or in others as you date around. Just being very critical of others, or talking about people behind their backs. Like being emotionally intelligent looks different for a lot of people. But if someone can't, like, if they hurt themselves by not releasing emotions, that's something to be aware of. Inability to have empathy, sympathy, or both. Manipulative is a hard toxic trait, because sometimes you really don't know you're being manipulated. And that's, I mean, the point of manipulation, right? But manipulation, I think I went to therapy from a relationship, and we talked a lot about this. And it kind of goes back to just questioning people's intentions can help you sort out manipulation. And even in my own self, I need to question, okay, what's my intention of wanting someone to go pick up this dinner that will benefit both of us, but it's because I forgot to plan it and pick it up, and I wanted them to go pick it up for me. You know, like, in a sense, that's manipulation. It's getting something I want, right? It's that motive, even though there are benefits. Like, yeah, they get the dinner too, and I bought it, whatever, even if I just didn't think it all the way through. Extremely needy, extreme lack of self-awareness, closed-minded, disloyal, dishonest, controlling, jealous, inability to apologize, thinks the world revolves around them, needs constant attention, will not accept no as an answer, does not respect boundaries, overly focused on image and has superficial values, holds a grudge, rages, is unable to process anger in a healthy manner, blames everything on everyone else because they have the tendency to see themselves as a victim. So I really like that list of things. It helps you just be aware. But I think more than not, we've all hit maybe one of those points, maybe all of those points sometime in our life. And to just be a little bit more aware of how we're showing up in our relationships. And this doesn't mean just in romantic relationships, but even with our friends and our family members. I think being aware of these traits is helpful. And when you know the negative, it's a backdrop for the positive traits to look for and to try to emulate and work on in yourself. And yeah, relationships take all that work. And I think the biggest thing for me is reflection and journaling. This is a habit I've like lost, but try to brought back up. And Sundays, I love to just sit down and write all my thoughts out. And that's a good ponderative day. And like just being mindful of your friends too, and what they're going through, and calling people, making the time to just check in with people. I like to ask people what they're grateful for, as well as the four goal setting guidelines for the youth of the church. I try to ask my friends these 4 questions because it helps them reflect, and then I get to know what's going on in their lives. It's spiritually, emotionally, physically, and socially. And yeah, just to see all those areas and how they're doing, and check in with myself in those areas too. I think I forget to do that for myself. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other relationship things I've been learning lately. I absolutely love Pinterest, and if you're not on it, it's a good social media for me, for church, especially because it's not loud. There's not like videos, but also just like to envision what I want and read special tips and sometimes funny memes. But I love this quote I found. It says, "Marriage isn't, I promise to love you until I stop loving you. It's, I promise to make a conscious decision to continue to love you even when it's hard, because I'm aware no one is perfect, but you are worth it." And I love just the "you are worth it." You know, when you're dating and viewing people, even if this is someone you go on one date with and it's like, nope, this isn't going to work, you still view them as a person, and you know you're not going to like love them romantically, but you like just value them. And then if you do find someone that you want to date and get to know, and you see their instinct value, it's that divine potential, not potential that, ooh, they don't do this now, but I want them to do this later. You know, you're not going to change someone. Like you marry them as they are. And I think that goes down to the intrinsic value. Like they are worth it just as a person, you know, worthy to be loved. So that was a quote I found recently. I'm looking at, acts of service. That is something like, it goes back kind of to the love languages, but just like things, those little things you can do. And you can even just start practicing and doing them for your roommates or for your family members. And that's like helping fold laundry, serve breakfast, take the trash out, clean his car, like pick a task from his list and do it. Plan nights with his favorite people, help schedule his appointments. Okay, these are funny. But like there are little things, just like clearing dishes, picking up things that they need help with. And it's cool to just start jotting down lists of things you've maybe noticed in people's lives, in your friends' lives, or relationships you like admire. Like what are they doing? Start to just note how they interact with each other and how you want to show up and be. And that one's a little harder because we're not seeing the day-to-day things most relationships go through. You know, there are arguments, disagreements, hard conversations, financial things people are working through as a couple. And I think it's so easy to overlook like that those are happening, you know, when we post happy pictures and adventures, and it doesn't discredit the things that they might be going through or figuring out. And I think that's been cool for me to realize, like, as I post things on social media, I almost want to put like disclaimer, it's not as perfect as it looks. I mean, duh, that's social media. I rolled my eyes at that because that's like, everyone knows that. But like for me, just knowing that about myself, and then when I see other people's, it's yes, being happy for them, loving cute, amazing photos, but also remembering like they have their own journey, whatever that looks like. And we don't know all the details, and that's okay. But figuring out those details for ourselves, I think there's books and different resources to help us out, because there's just so much to learn. And relationships is the number one thing in life. God and relationships, and our relationship with God, right? And that stems and helps us reflect our relationship with everyone else. And if you don't believe in God, but just a spiritual higher power grounding yourself, I think can still be applicable. And I mean, everyone has relationships with at least one person in our lives. And the more we can figure out how to navigate relationships, the better we are. I also am just proud of everyone in therapy. We all have trauma from our parents. We're going to be parents causing trauma to our kids in one way or another. It's just how life goes. We're all imperfect, but just people putting in the work to sift through things and become better because of it. Like, it's just so cool to see that this is a more talkable topic. And yeah. Okay, there's a few more relationship quotes I want to share, and we'll end on that. So one says, a sure sign of man's strength is how gently he loves his wife. I love that quote. Sorry, I read that a little wrong. On my relationship board, I have just like fun questions to ask, relationship check-in questions. That was one thing my marriage prep teacher taught, was just like a daily talk time, like go on a walk, chat, go through the day, what made them mad. And that's changed, I think, now that we text, and probably a lot of us text a lot. And like for me, I text a ton. And one cute couple friend of mine, shout out to Chase and Ann, they said what helped them was like throughout the day, they would just send one word text, and that would, like, at the end of the day, they would go through their text, and then that one word would be like, oh yeah, I wanted to tell you this story. And then it's that in-person, face-to-face conversation. And then you're also more focused at work because you're not like busy texting things. And I just loved that example, because that daily talk time really is amazing. And I don't know, it's just to really find reasons to be excited for someone else and what excites you to listen to them. Like, I don't know, one of my coworkers too, I have to share this, it was the sweetest thing. We were talking about dating and just like that tipping point into marriage, and he was like, I dated a lot of girls, and I was kind of like just dating his now wife and trying to figure out, like, get married, whatever, all that. Like, do we get married? Sorry, I didn't mean to say whatever. Anyways, trying to figure out if they wanted to get married, and he remembers having the thought, like, I never get sick of looking at her face. And he's like, I had dated other girls, and like, yeah, they were great, but there was just something not there. And it wasn't that they weren't pretty or anything, but he's like, but with his wife, like, something about her, like, pulled him in, and he just, no matter how many years they've been together, like, he never gets sick of looking at her face. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And just noticing the details. I mean, I don't know. It's just really cool that, like, how you can get to know someone on what levels, and how to grow love. That's been really cool to figure out in this stage of my life. This is another one, kind of like these scriptures, and then I'll end. But 10 ways to love. Listen without interrupting. We did this practice in college where you had 2 minutes and you paired up with someone and you couldn't say any words. They had to just start telling you a story. And even if their story ended, you would just like have to nod and not say any words back. Try that. Try that in your next conversation with whomever. It could even be someone at the grocery store. And even if there is awkward silence, like, don't jump in. Let them see what comes out of their mouths, to fill the awkward silence. Speak without accusing. Give without sparing, pray without ceasing, answer without arguing, share without pretending, enjoy without complaint, trust without wavering, forgive without punishing, promise without forgetting. Anyways, I need to set that as my background, because those are just like little things that apply to probably every moment in our lives, because there's so many things happening all around us. But there are those like fundamental things we can be doing to better strengthen relationships. So if love is patient, then so must you be. And yeah, being patient with yourself as you figure this out. And yeah, there literally is so much to figure out, and how to be a good spouse, how to be a good girlfriend, how to be a good friend, how to prepare yourself for marriage. And there's just so many things that I think it can be overwhelming, but I feel like the one thing you can do, and I think I've said this in multiple podcasts, is grab a journal, a piece of paper, and just start writing down what's important to you right now and what 5 things you can work on. Circle the first one and get to work. Make a plan. Find something different, like a new lens, like I said at the beginning, a new lens to help shift what you're doing. Because if you want different results, you need to be doing things differently, right? And I say that with a grain of salt, because dating is so much about timing and people being placed in our lives. And I think it's divinely orchestrated by God. I mean, I know it is. God is in the details. And I think looking for those details every day can be helpful. I will link a podcast that I listened to. One of my sweet temple friends sent it to me. And it's just this amazing love story. And it is so cool about all the little evidence that helped this person find their spouse. And Julie Balkman, we've had her on the podcast before. She posts a lot of great, helpful tips. We'll have her on the podcast again real soon. And just good luck. Be aware of those toxic traits. I wish I had more to say about that. I might put a box on my Instagram story about toxic traits or funny dating stories, and next time do like a little recap on that. So if you have thoughts, please let me know. Good luck with dating. Good luck in your relationships. it's hard, but it's so worth it. And write down why it's worth it, like ultimately, what is this all for? What's the purpose of life, basically? And I don't know, what makes you happy intrinsically? Is that the right word? Happy. What makes you so happy that you could burst? And live for those things. Go fishing, go running, go read a book, go lay by the pool. Go pickleball. I mean, that's everybody's favorite thing right now, but yeah, go do those things that matter most, and with the ones you love, and with the ones you love, prioritizing your actions because they matter most. And everyone have a great day. Spread the light the passion. Let me know if you want to be on the podcast. I'd love to have you. We just chat, and it's not as uncomfortable as you might think it is. So please reach out to me, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.